2 years, not 2 months. So, this week's quote, or really this week's concept, is coming again from James Clear. There's something that he posted recently on LinkedIn that I thought was so insightful, but is something that is the opposite of what I feel like everybody's saying these days. And it's such an important message. Before we dive into this, make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and ring that notification bell so that you never miss an episode or tutorial. So let's look at the full post because it was a little bit longer. He said, 2 years, not 2 months. The visible progress you're hoping for usually comes slower than you'd like. Even with consistent effort, it can take a long time before progress feels significant. It might be a year of writing and editing before the book really starts to come together. You may need 2 years of recovery from a major injury before you notice just how far you've come. It may take 2 years of yoga before you realize how flexible you've become. Take a deep breath, stop worrying about immediate results, and settle in to a nice routine. So I feel like I saw my other favorite, Mel Robbins, say something like this the other day as well. And we kind of talked about it last week when we were talking about how, again, the Mel quote, you don't necessarily have to do something huge to make a huge difference. And one of the areas where we talked about that was when it comes to building better business habits, creating a routine, and making those atomic or 1% improvements. I think this is so important because so much of what I see, I don't know about your feed, but so much of what I see on social media these days is all about how to do everything fast, do it faster. Just, create a year's worth of content in 30 minutes with AI or whatever. Maybe that's a little ridiculous, but actually, I feel like I saw that one. And I'm all about efficiency. That's what I teach in the academy is how to be more efficient, how to use automation to get more done in less time. But here's the thing. There's a difference between getting more done in a day and being more productive and expecting results to happen overnight. And I think that's what James is talking about here. That's what Mel was talking about. And this is where I think comparison is the worst little gremlin that can get into our brains and convince us, lie to us, tell us that we should be there by now, wherever there is, whatever it is that you're working towards, whatever milestone you're attempting to reach in your business, that you should be there by now because this person got there or that person got there. And maybe they even got there really fast, but that's not the norm. The norm is that things take time. As an example, I'm going to just talk about YouTube in particular. If you have a YouTube channel, then you know that it's slow going. You count every subscriber as they come in. You're religiously checking those watch hours because, obviously, if you're working towards monetization, that's important. But even if you're not, watching that subscriber count go up, seeing more people watching your content and enjoying your content is affirming, right? But I think what can be so dangerous is this expectation that is being set that exponential growth or quick growth is the norm, is easy, is or should be expected. And I think it's doing a disservice. So there are some YouTube experts out there. I'm not going to name names because I think what they're doing is great. And I'm not meaning to throw shade in any way on these people. But they're kind of making the impression that even getting to your first 1,000 subscribers can be so fast, it's so easy. And maybe it can in certain genres. There are certain situations where if your goal is to go viral, you can follow a trend and that might lead you to have a massive growth in your subscribers really, really quickly. But we've talked before about which numbers really matter, vanity numbers versus the actual analytics going on behind the scenes. And while, yes, getting to your first 1,000 subscribers is a huge milestone as a YouTuber because it is that monetization milestone of subscriber base, it's only a small piece of the puzzle. And if you're utilizing certain strategies or following trends or copying other people in order to hit that milestone for the outward visibility of it or whatever reason, but you're not creating content that people are watching, like truly watching, then you're still miles away from that monetization if that's what you're working towards. And I think setting that expectation or that initial goal that 1,000 subscribers is so important is kind of discouraging a lot of potentially awesome YouTubers from continuing what they're doing because they're not hitting that milestone. They're not getting there fast enough. And if you've been following my channel for a while, you can look right now and see that I have not hit that milestone myself. But what I am doing and what I am loving about my journey here on YouTube is that my subscriber count is consistently and steadily going up. And so are my watch hours, which you guys can't see, but behind the scenes, I can see that they are steadily going up as well, which to me is the right way to grow on a channel like this because both sides of that show the balance that shows me that I'm getting some visibility and I'm creating content that people find useful or entertaining or whatever. That's the metric that really matters. And so using that as an example, it shows how it's such a disservice to be focused on trying to rocket to that particular level of growth rather than enjoying the process of what I'm doing, creating a routine so that I can create consistency, but then also loving what I'm doing, loving creating the content, loving getting better at editing the content, loving all of that. And I think that's what James is getting at here is that you may be able to find a way to game the system or rocket to a particular milestone or target, whether we're talking about something like social media or something behind the scenes, something personal in your business or in your life. But if you're not settling into a routine and a process and a journey that you truly love, are you even going to really want to stay in that destination where you've arrived? I've talked to a lot of clients and fellow business owners about this comparison game and why it's so dangerous, not just because it makes us feel less than or creates so much imposter syndrome and has undoubtedly made way too many business owners quit their business because they think, well, if I'm not growing as fast as they are, if I'm not getting where they are, I don't have that level of success yet, then it's just not going to happen for me. And so I'm just going to give up. We're not one size fits all. And somebody else growing faster or improving at something faster and comparing our journey to theirs is missing the point because you don't know the circumstances behind what they're doing to get there. And I don't mean just like what steps they're taking. And this is, oh man, we can have a whole conversation about why I don't like when people sell their exact system or their blueprint or do exactly this and you will achieve this. Ugh, that all of that drives me bonkers. And maybe I will do a video about that at some point. But I think what's so important to remember is that whatever they have done to accelerate that process for themselves has to be maintained on some level, whether it's them doing it themselves or outsourcing and hiring somebody else to take on certain tasks or whatever, that level has to be maintained. And the same thing would be true of you. It's important to be building a system, a journey, a routine, as James calls it, that you love and that you want to be doing so that when you do achieve whatever the goal is that you're working towards, it's something that you want to keep doing and it's a life and or business that you want to be living in. And that's why I love that he's pointing that out, that it's not about measuring things in short increments of time. We need to look at the long haul. Business is a long haul. Growth in our lives is an ongoing, forever thing. And while you will hit certain strides where you don't have to try so hard, you don't have to put as much effort in, the reality is that, I mean, I don't know about you, but I want to be building a business, a routine, a life that I'm excited to live in. It's like, what is that quote that people always say? Build a life that you never want to take a vacation from or something like that. Or another one would be, if you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life, which I call total BS on that, by the way, because Just because you love what you do doesn't mean you're not working super hard. But that's his point here, right? Is take things one day at a time. Take it 1 minute at a time if you need to for the beginning of the process. And build a day, build a week, build a month, build a year, build a life that you actually want to be living in. And you do that by focusing on the long term and building a process that is actually sustainable and that is actually enjoyable rather than paying your dues and working your butt off, working way too much, having no balance in your life just to try to hit some arbitrary goal in the time frame that you think you're supposed to be able to hit it in. Analytics are important. Paying attention to growth and reviewing what you're doing and seeing if it's working and if you need to pivot and switch things, it's all important. But obsessing about whether or not you're getting there fast enough is not serving anyone. This actually came up the other night in a fashion when I was having my monthly meetup with students in the academy. We were talking about the grind of social media and how sometimes there's this feeling of obligation to be on all the channels and all this stuff. I'm on multiple channels, I get it, but it wasn't until for me, I found the type of content that I really enjoyed creating and the platform that I knew could live on forever and make the time that I spend creating that content worthwhile in the long run, i.e., YouTube, which is why you're seeing me here. If you're listening to me on a podcast platform, then head over to YouTube because that's where the bulk of my content is. But it wasn't until I found that joy for myself that I was able to create any level of routine or consistency or process that worked for me and that didn't stress me out. And yes, I post on Instagram and Facebook and I use tools to make that streamlined and simple for me. I repurpose content in different places. I focus my energy and attention in one place on a one channel and then let it kind of seep out into other places. But by doing that, I'm creating a process that I actually love and that allows me not to be stressed out over the rate of growth of anything. Now, to be fair, we've, I think, talked about this before that I do still work full time while I'm creating content on YouTube, while I'm growing my business. I've decided that I don't want to put that level of financial pressure on my business. I want to be able to do it in my own way and at my own pace. And so I am maintaining a steady income in order to not have that pressure there. I've lived that life where I had a business that was my sole source of income back when I was doing singing lessons, voice lessons. And it would stress me out all the time if a student had to cancel or something like that. It made me feel like I needed to be a teacher or a business owner that I didn't want to be. That if somebody canceled, I felt this like, oh, stress and need to like charge them something for that missed lesson or whatever, which of course is a different conversation if you're talking about no shows or people canceling last second all the time, because that's a respect thing and that's a totally different situation. But somebody giving plenty of notice and canceling and me stressing out because now I wasn't going to be able to pay my rent that month. I don't want to be in that place with a business ever again. So until my business naturally at its own pace reaches the level where it's consistently doing that on its own, I'm going to keep working because I choose to build that routine and that life and that business that I actually want to be in. So that's why I love this quote from James, because he's just reminding us like, take a deep breath, take a pause, stop looking around at what everybody else is doing and wondering how they got there that fast. And can I copy what they just did in order to like stop worrying about all that. Just take a deep breath and keep being you, doing what you're doing and growing at your own pace. So the question I want to ask you is, what is one thing in your business right now that you need to take this advice from James, take a deep breath, and just build a routine and a process that you love? Let me know in the comments.